church is. And so tonight, what we're going to aim at is actually just to share with you the pathway of discipleship. So hopefully you read that document. If not, that's totally okay. We're gonna kind of walk through it slowly tonight. In part because I want you guys to just be owners, and I want you to be vision carriers. You guys are actually probably going to have more conversations with non-Christians than Trevor or I will. You guys are actually going to be the ones living out the mission of Harbor more than Trevor or I get to, in the sense of like our job is actually to equip the saints. And so we know that vision leaks. We've been doing this together for 7-8 weeks together. At the same time, we want to be really clear and really concise on who we are, what we're doing, where we're going, and actually how we're going to get there. Every church has different like pathways or connection points or processes, but we really want to dive in deeply together and actually know the how-tos together. Just a reminder too, the reason we care so much about the intentionality and the specific even pathway of how we're going to do things is because discipleship is intentional. It's not accidental. Like we arrive at a certain destination faster and leaner and healthier if we're actually all pulling in the same direction. If you guys have ever like helped pull a trailer or both helped like one of those big wheelbarrows and tried to like pull it or push it with somebody else, but you're not in step or in sync, it's frustrating. When my girls try and help me with home projects and we're like pulling something or pulling the trash cans, I know it's discipleship, we're not just doing chores, but it's super inconsistent when we're pulling at a different weight or a different level. So our hopes is to be pulling in the same direction. 1 Corinthians 14:40 says, but all things should be done decently and in order. And before we just walk through this pathway, I kind of want to just unpack 3 different illustrations for us to think about how we're going to have our philosophy of ministry, or how to think about this. Paul is talking about the actual local church gathering in Corinth when he says that. And I think with church planning, a lot of people think, man, it's just church planning. It's a small group of people. It's kind of scrappy. You're figuring it out as you go, which is really true. And you change things on the fly, which again is kind of true. Maybe locations or not everything's buttoned up and we're figuring things out as we go. At the same time, we don't want that to be an excuse for a lack of pursuing excellence, or I would just say going the extra mile. I actually want to flip it on its head and say, with church planning, we have a rare opportunity to start with the end in mind and do things really well and learn some, not necessarily lessons, but actually learn some lessons, but even just learn maturity from our different experiences in discipleship. So we want to start with the end in mind, meaning I think the healthier and the faster or the clearer we can be in what we're doing, I think the more mature and the more missional we're going to be able to have, or the more fruit we're going to be able to have in Sarpy County together. So the other illustration is to think of, I'm kind of a redneck, so my illustration is going to be a little bit more country for you. If you're familiar with 2 different kinds of weapons, there's a shotgun and there's a rifle. They're 2 different types of guns, and a shotgun's purpose is essentially to harvest. That's a more church appropriate word. To harvest like birds at like 30 yards, and there's a bunch of pellets in a shotgun shell, and it's meant to go wide and not very far, but it has a specific purpose. Rifle is a lot more dialed in. It can go a lot farther. It takes a lot longer to aim, and it's a lot more accurate, but it's one bullet and it goes in a long direction. Our ministry philosophy aims to be more rifled in its approach, meaning we actually aim to be slow in actually how we make decisions, to make sure we're actually making the right decision at the right time with the right people and the right focus and the right need. And we don't want to just probably be involved in all things. So there will be some things that other churches have done that you've been a part of. We're not going to be a part of them, especially as an early church plant, because we have to give our energy to the primary things that we feel like God's called us to and are the most bang for our buck, just discipleship-wise, if that makes sense. So the other kind of illustration is to just kind of think of, a lot of times when people think about the pathways of discipleship or ministries in a local church, they think like it's kind of like a buffet of options or a menu. We're aiming to kind of give you a map. Does that make sense? So If you think of your favorite restaurant in Omaha or wherever you've lived that had really good restaurants, I doubt you're saying it was like China Buffet, or it might have been. I'm not judging you. I love that place, but it's probably not. They're not priding themselves, or their business model is not actually on like necessarily quality. It's on quantity. We're aiming to be quality focused on rich discipleship to Jesus, and so our aim is actually to be a map. Meaning, we're not going to give you an array of options. We'll talk about this in our pathway, but like, the main starting point is actually just groups. It's not also just the starting point. It's like our living function of where we're going to be moving forward. So think map, not menu, if that's helpful. And so tonight, my aim is just to give you the map. Trevor, do you mind maybe passing out those pathways? Maybe grab a volunteer. Cole, do you mind helping kind of just pass some of those out? John, do you mind helping with those too? Before we actually walk through those, I want to just talk to you or give you 6 assumptions we want to just cover before we read through this. The first assumption is discipleship is the church's primary job. I know you're like, duh, everything's named discipleship in all your talks. But if we were to ask, if you were to say, hey, what's a church do? I would think there's a lot of churches out there that are doing this really well. A lot of churches give themselves to Christian education. A lot of churches give themselves to social work. A lot of churches give themselves to being a music hall. A lot of churches give themselves to killing it at childcare. Guys, this is not my fault. My phone is an iPhone 8, and I've turned it on silent. It keeps doing this, so somebody help me. Anyways. What did you say? Airplane mode. Okay, thank you. Maybe I didn't need your help. I just turned it off. You're right. I should have put it on airplane mode. Sorry, I'm sassy. Thank you, John. That was helpful. So again, it's not saying that we're not going to do those things. They're just not going to be the primary things we give initial attention to, and they aren't going to be our main focus of energy. So I would say it's awesome if churches can do those things when they get to a certain point, or they have certain resources or even human resources or giftings. It's beautiful. Again, our main goal is going to be discipleship. A second, map is more effective than a menu. We've talked about that. Third, community is essential for discipleship. We'll talk about that, why groups are so essential, but you can't become a fully formed disciple by yourself with your Bible in a closet, or even just outside of a group, in our opinion. And then for you to just, I know we've said this a lot, but I really want you to know that Trevor and I just didn't steal this from another church. We didn't get this out of a manual. We have really baked these processes and these pathways of discipleship in prayer and in just decades together of ministry, and just really try to see like what actually accomplished the most fruit. Like, where do we actually see true life change? Not just like numbers and conversions, but actually like disciples made. So I want you to know that every step is intentional and formative. And then fifth is people need to be taught actually how to belong. I don't say that in like a authoritative, arrogant way. It's the same way of like your child is learning to actually be in your environment, in your home. And when you actually are outside or you travel for a little bit, all of us can attest to like, they're just kind of crazy. I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm just saying, hey, it takes us a while to actually learn how to actually belong. But if we've not actually been coached or modeled how to actually be in a healthy discipleship group, we need to be taught actually how to belong. So I'm just inviting you guys to have a really teachable spirit through core team, to almost come in, if you can, with a premeditated like blank slate. And then sixth is just clarity is kindness. So that's to you guys as church members, for Trevor and I leading you. I think when we're clear, I think you feel more loved and seen and equipped. And at the same time, if you guys are really clear on and honest about what next steps, what pathways are to non-Christians in our county, we're going to be able to love them and serve them well. If you actually don't know how somebody should get connected, or you don't know why we do something, that's okay. But realize we're losing momentum, vision, and probably like confidence with a non-Christian of what we're doing. So meaning like if you're like, oh, you should just email Trevor or Ryan, that's great. But if there's actually specific next steps, I want you guys to be vision carriers so that you can know those things. Okay, so let's walk through this pathway real quick. Also, I just want to tell you, we'll take 5 minutes at the end or so, just if there is questions, just for clarity or why we're doing that, or tell me more about this since we didn't cover it. So if you do have questions, we'll just cover that at the end. But I'm going to skip the pre-launch stuff in the front or at the top because you guys are already in that or you've gone through that. So looking at post-launch map, this is going to be after September 2025 when we essentially launch into Core Team Sundays. We're going to keep much of the same process that all of you guys actually went through. So it's not like we did a special process just for Core Team. Really just taking away reading the Core Team member booklet. And in some regards, and probably in some relationships and contexts, we're probably still going to give that to people to understand the DNA even faster and deeper. But we'll be together every Sunday doing Core Team investment and DNA. So, but notice also, the first thing when somebody wants to get more meaningfully connected or they want to be a part of Harbor, yeah, come on Sunday, but the first thing we really want them to do is do a connection appointment with Trevor or I, or one of the Harbor leaders. Rather than just like fill out a connect card and then like show up at a random group, we actually want to get to know them. We want to know their story. We also want to be a filter of shepherding and care for you guys. If you're all in different groups and then people can just like sign up for your group online and show up, I think you guys would do great with that. At the same time, I don't think I'm necessarily setting you up best as a shepherd, knowing context, history, and even if this person's a great fit or if they're like, they have the right expectations of to be in your group. So kind of see that as an opportunity for us to just continue care and relationship. Also knowing that all of ministry is relational, and we realize that this model is kind of inefficient. It's meant to be. It's meant to slow us down, help us really just understand one another and understand who Harbor is. So we're going to keep vision lunches and we're going to keep intro groups, meaning our hopes is to do every 6 to 8 weeks. We'll just do a vision lunch or a connection lunch for new people that get connected, where we'll actually probably immerse several of you guys, maybe host them at your home, just to invite people in to hear the DNA, but also just to build relationships of Harbor. And then we'll invite everyone to actually go through an intro Harbor group, meaning somebody shows up on a Sunday morning. I'm not saying like, I'm going to tell you no to just invite them into your group, but I'm kind of going to invite you more so just to build a relationship with them and then actually invite them to potentially do an intro group. Not because we're trying to control everything, more so because we want to give them the fullest, most consistent, immersive experience of discipleship that all of you are getting so that they're showing up with the same expectations, as well as we're going to keep building and developing and launching the same types of Harbor groups, if that makes sense. Okay? And then the fourth is participate in Harbor's 3 basic discipleship rhythms: belong, serve, and give. You guys, this is outlined on your covenant already, but just being active in your group and present on Sunday morning worship is probably the most important thing you can be, a transforming presence to and with the people of Harbor. Second is serving. We'll have serve teams on Sunday mornings, but we don't have much yet. And then the third is just to continue to contribute versus consume through giving. If you notice on the bottom, there's a little bit of just a section that says groups are not one way, they are the way. Like, if I was just to put a paradigm out there for you, if people are like, hey, if somebody asks you like, oh, what's Harbor about? You could just say essentially like making and maturing disciples through small groups. That's not necessarily an official vision, but like for us, groups are the vehicle for discipleship. Meaning, every covenanted member, every member, like it's a requirement to actually be in a group, just so we can know you, you can know us, and you can also be invested in the health and the ministry of the church. And so that's contributing and participating weekly. And again, that just kind of goes to that assumption of community is essential for discipleship. And then if you also just start to see, like, go beyond the group in discipleship, kind of in the middle here, we want to encourage you to grow through your group. And what I mean by that is to actually see your group as the way in which you would grow in leadership and service, in other types of ministry, in care. If you're like, man, I really want to grow in counseling or care, your group is an awesome opportunity for you to start in that. Meaning, we want groups to be the first line of defense, pastoral care-wise, discipleship. It doesn't mean, actually, we would welcome you to reach out to Trevor or I pastorally, but we want to invite you to see as leaders, but also just priesthood of all believers, that God has actually equipped you with his gospel, with his spirit, to actually care and minister to one another. And so we want you to kind of see, hey, I want to start a book study. Do it with people in your group. Maybe grab another couple guys in another group not too far from you, or gals, vice versa. And then at the bottom here, you can also see to leader a group, here's the requirements, just so you know, we're not just like, it's not a good old boys club or a good old girls club. We're like, I like that guy, I don't like that guy. There's kind of a thorough process where we want you to actually be a covenanted member. We want you to participate in leadership development with Trevor and Ryan. We've done a couple different rounds of leadership development already. Our hopes is to kind of rotate between men and women. We want to invest in the women just as much as we invest in the men. So if you flip over here, Trevor, how are we doing on time? Okay. The next is kind of the membership pathway. So we want all of you to become members. You pretty much already are, I'm pretty sure. Membership is part of healthy discipleship. So we have to continue to, I almost want to change the word membership because our culture has just taken that and adopted a new meaning to that. Like you're a member at Genesis, you're a member at Costco, you're a member at Netflix. Those are all great things. We all love those. But those are all about like you pay a fee and then you get a perk. I want you to see membership as chief contributor, not consumer. Chief servant, and an opportunity to actually see membership as a way for you to deepen in your discipleship. If somebody was to say, like, who are your leaders at Harbor? I would say member is the first leader in Harbor. They're the first owner, they're the first one of belonging. They're the people that actually see new people on a Sunday morning. They move towards them, they care for them, they meet needs of people in their city group or their gospel community. So then the next level would be deacon and elder. But again, I want you to see it as part of people growing in their discipleship journey, in my opinion, is to take the step to be a local member in a local church. And so we want it to be a discipleship process. So you can see the first step is just to complete the process we went through on the first page, and then we'll have a 4-week study or a 4-week group together for membership class. You can see the topics listed here. Again, kind of pushing back against this idea that it's just like, hey, this is where I sign. I want my name on the member call, which is beautiful, and we want to know you. But according to Scripture, members are the people that Trevor and I are actually spiritually responsible with on Judgment Day. So meaning, I really want to know you and care for your soul. And I think you really want to be known and cared for. And so can't just do that in like one meeting. We actually just want to spend 3 or 4 weeks together and actually cast intentional vision of what the church says membership is and isn't. And I think we're also serving people really well. If we're really clear what the expectations are to become a member versus like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever signed a contract or signed something and then you're like, I didn't know that was an expectation. And you're not excited to be in the contract anymore. You're not excited to be a part of that local institution or whatever it is. So we want to serve you well by that. And in the same way you had a core team membership conversation, we want to have membership conversations with people where we can care for them, we can love them, we can serve you. And then you can see that we'll actually install new members at members meetings. So our next members meeting, our first members meeting is August 15th. We won't necessarily install members because you guys have all already been installed as core team members. But moving forward, we'll do that twice a year, cast vision, celebration, worship together, and then we'll renew/commit our membership annually together. More so just so we can care for you. If things have shifted or changed in your life, maybe you've moved, maybe something's coming up, we want to be proactive, not reactive in our pastoral care and discipleship. Okay, and then kind of just moving down to elder deacon pathway. I want you to see that Trevor and I really do believe that the health of this church is going to be on its back of the health of its leaders, which feels weighty to Trevor and I to say. But we really do feel called to actually raise up more men and women of Harbor amongst us to actually be biblically qualified for these roles of deacon and elder. And so the deacon pathway will be really similar, but shorter and include a few different resources. And the only thing I'll really say on here, you can kind of see that that's a couple-year process. We actually hope to start that actually this fall with a couple men in the eldership, and potentially with some men and women in deacon development. But the biggest shift I want you just to think about is elders and deacons, or elders primarily, are shepherds, not board members. Shepherds, not board members. Meaning, at different traditions, not in malice, but in good intent, I think that a lot of times when somebody says, I've been an elder at a church, it's like, hey, I sit on a board and I like look over the finances. I make sure these guys aren't making a mess of their life that are the staff pastors. But they're not actually necessarily engaged in the work of actually like shepherding, caring, knowing its members, living an exemplary lifestyle, able to defend sound doctrine. So managing their household well. I want you to be confident of any man or woman that stands in one of these offices that you'd be okay with your sons or daughters turning into as a healthy, mature disciple. And so you can see that there's actually like a process of us reviewing and evaluating and confirming and caring for each of those souls. So if you are a guy or a gal and you're just interested in those things, I also just want to encourage you, there's a reading list on here. Even if you're not necessarily like, I want to do this or I'm eager about this, that's a great reading list for you to understand the biblical qualifications for both, and you'll be a better informed church member when it comes to like actually saying like yay or nay to that person. If you don't really understand what a biblical deacon is, it's kind of hard for you to say like, I don't think Ryan fits the, or I do think he does. So just want to equip you we really want to take ecclesiology or what it means to be the church seriously. So, and you can see that lay elders will serve 2-3 year terms and then take a year of sabbatical before re-eligibility. So I want you guys to know that we are committed to raising male and female leaders and really caring about the health and the wellness and just the formation and fruition of our members, but also the leaders of Harbor. So anybody have any questions? I know we just covered a lot.